A quote from Andrew Tate: "Men can cheat, women can't." This sentiment is sadly not just shared by Andrew Tate. I dare anyone to rationalise why men should be allowed to do something so despicable. Nobody is deserving of being cheated on. If you think this is somehow fair, give us a call because the show is starting now. Welcome, leaf be upon you, to another episode of Truth Wanted. I'm your host, Jon the Skeptick. This is the live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central, where we talk to people about what they believe and why. And if you'd like to give us a call, you can at 1-512-991-9242 or through your computer at tiny.cc/calltw. Truth Wanted is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 non-profit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. We'd also like to welcome our new viewers watching today on Twitter and Twitch, as well as give some love to all of our regular viewers on the YouTubes and everyone else watching on YouTube, of course. This is my good friend, new friend, Vimoh. Welcome, Vimoh. It's good to have
John.
you here.
Nice to be here.
Before we do get started, we need to give you the results from last week's We Want the Truth, or our WWTT segment. So last week we asked you, write Bigfoot's slogan, and here are some of our favorite answers. At number 3, we've got David Greenbaum. Bigfoot's slogan is helping to advance the conspiracy community, one Bigfoot at a time. I feel like that needs to be said over a radio. It's like one small step for man, there's one giant footprint for Bigfoot. Number 2, Chuck Gaydos, Bigfoot slogan, not our first choice of name, but better than abominable. And at number 1, Russell H, Bigfoot slogan is Bigfoot, bigger heart. I like those. I would have said something like Bigfoot, I'm not compensating. Something, you know. I actually heard that from a friend who was watching the show last week. The prompt for this week's WWTT is it is a bad idea to blank at a psychic reading. Vimoh, did you were given the question before we came on. Did you think of an answer for that? What have you got?
Not really. I think my response is still that what was the prompt again?
It's a bad idea to blank at a psychic reading.
It's a bad idea to go to a psychic reading.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I would. I came up with a couple as well. I said it would be a bad idea to die at a psychic reading because, you know, would the psychic see that coming? Who knows? Or it's a bad idea to pretend that you're also, or say that you're also a psychic at a psychic reading because there might be like a psychic battle. No one wants to see that. It'd be like Harry Potter and Voldemort with their wands, and that, you know, what would happen there? I can't wait to see what the audience comes up with for this question for next week. So comment on the video and your comment may well be read out on next week's episode. So, as I said, I'm joined here by Vimoh. Vimoh, what do you do? What is your life about?
I am an Indian YouTuber. I make videos and podcasts about atheism, religion, cultural criticism, and stuff like that. Some of my content is also about superheroes, but that still falls under the larger umbrella of cultural criticism. And my channel is Vimoh, and I post videos every week. And I also do a live stream called Vimoh Live, where I take callers every Saturday, where we talk about the kind of stuff that we are probably going to talk about here: atheism, religion, contemporary affairs, and how human beings deal with reality.
How easy is it? Because I mean, I'm a Brit that lives in America, and I now know it's not easy to be atheist in America. How easy is it to be, like, outwardly? Are you outwardly atheist when you go out in public? And how easy is that? How, like, well accepted is that?
Well, it depends on, like, I come from a Hindu family. Among Hindus, it's largely not that frowned upon because Hindus like to claim that the religion is very open and accepting towards atheism. So in my family, at least, there is no problem. My family is full of theists. Nobody bats an eyelid that I don't believe what they believe. But there are people in India for whom it is harder. And I should not generalize too much. There are Hindus for whom it is harder. Hindus whose families listen to a guru of some sort. It is easy to say that you don't believe in God, but it is somewhat harder to say that you do not you do not respect the authority of that guru, or that you do not believe the specific superstitions that come with the specific, sub variety of Hinduism that
Right.
family follows. For Indian Muslims, it's even harder, because they get like they get ostracized by their community when they say that they're atheists, but other atheists are still suspicious of them because they have a Muslim name, and there is some amount of anti-Muslim bias in Indian society. So
Wow.
that also, and I suppose it's something similar for Christians also.
Is so obviously Hinduism is like the predominant religion there.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it close between Christianity and Islam, or is one definitely bigger than the other?
In terms of size, Christianity and Islam?
and like how many followers there are.
So I suppose Islam is India actually has the second largest population of Muslims in the world, second only to Indonesia. Yeah.
Wow. So
Christians are smaller. Yeah.
Okay. And so how would, for instance, then a Muslim in India react to you being atheist?
Well, I've had a mixed bag. I find Muslims coming to the live stream and talking, and it's you are aware of the kind of arguments that are presented because you get the same. They're Abrahamic arguments, for Kalam cosmological and stuff like that, and very occasionally, like I have discovered that there are 2 or 3 approaches to doing atheism content in India, and it depends on your goal. If your goal is to change someone's mind, then perhaps not the best approach to make fun of them,
Right.
because you want them to take 2 steps closer to you, not move 5 steps further away from you.
Right.
So when you do that, they're nice enough people to talk to, and I suppose that applies to Hindus and Christians also. You speak nicely, people speak nicely, and you either get them closer or you get to understand them better and things like that. And that's my chosen method of doing things. There are others who are more hostile with their approach, and I fear that kind of atheist activism might be alienating people more. But I suppose some people who are angry atheists have good reasons to be angry atheists also.
Right.
So I can't fault them for that also.
You were a believer at one point then, and did you step away? And
yes.
what was your deconversion? What one day made you go, I don't think I believe this anymore?
Oh, I think I can credit the ACA for that. I've been a huge watcher of the atheist experience for a number of years. In the beginning, I was watching it as a Hindu, and I was having a lot of fun, like I mentioned. And at some point of time, I figured, hey, does this apply to my religion also? And it turns out that it did. So I let the ACA's arguments be the filter through which I started seeing my religion. And then it wasn't an overnight deconversion, obviously. I suppose that even after my beliefs in my religion got loosened up quite a bit, still took me about a couple of years to start saying that I'm an atheist. Yeah.
Right. And I don't know anything about Hinduism, and
Okay.
I think there probably a lot of people that don't know. What are like the fundamentals of the religion? Do you go to an afterlife? Is there a lot of praying involved? Is there what happens?
Right. So the curious part is it would depend on the person you're asking. There are people who would say Hinduism has no afterlife, has no concept of God, is a complete just philosophy, etc., etc. And then there are people who, despite saying so, will be theistic in ways that you understand theism to be. Who they'll pray to God, they will expect things, they will participate in superstition or religious rituals and things like that. Hinduism does have a concept of an afterlife, but there are some who say that there is no concept of an afterlife, it's just rebirth. So it depends on the subcategory of Hindu. It depends on the kind of Hindu you're speaking with.
Right. And so what would I find this fascinating, like different religions, because I grew up non-religious. I believed I could speak to dead people. So it fascinates me what like the average person who believed in something would do each day. So would you get up and say thank you to a deity, or would you just carry on with your life?
There are people who do that. Yeah. There are people who do that, and there are people who don't do that. There are people who wake up at a certain hour because it is an auspicious hour, and then they pray to whoever they wish to pray to. And then there are people who will call themselves Hindu but will not take part in any of these. There are even people who call themselves Hindu atheists.
Wow. And
Yeah.
would you say that you have a goal of helping people step away from religion, or are you just trying to get information out there and hope that somebody sees it and goes, this might help me further down the line?
Mhm.
What's your goal personally?
I don't think I would describe my goal as helping people move away from religion.
Hmm.
Although, if someone wants to move away from religion, I certainly hope that I can be helpful in that department. It is my goal to help people be more critical towards their worldviews.
Right.
So, even if it is an atheist who is of the opinion that if someone were not religious, they will be more compassionate, I would argue with them because I do not think that is true. Atheism does not make you naturally more compassionate. It's just a thing that it's one position on one question, right? So, uh, I have had conversations with atheists and I've had conversations with religious people. My larger goal, I suppose, would be what is adjacent to the ACA's goal, which is separation of religion and state,
Hmm. Hmm.
because we are seeing a lot of that happen in India, especially with respect to Hindutva. And the goal is to, like, if you're religious, keep it in your pants. I
Right.
don't need to know about it. You don't need to show it to me. You don't need to put it in classrooms and scientific laboratories and hospitals. It's something you can do on your own. These are things like religion spilling out of its container is
Hmm.
the bigger problem, I think. Religion
Right.
itself, sure, it can be like, if someone came and made a random claim and you pointed out the flaw in that, they will say, oh yeah, I was wrong. But if that claim was religious, they will be more hesitant to accept your criticism of it. So religion itself is not always a problem, but it is certainly a home for a lot of other things. Like, once something is dressed in religion as an armor,
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
becomes difficult to counter it. So
Right.
that is the problem. I want to devalue religion so
Right.
that we are able to talk about it more critically and treat it like just any other thing in society.
And are there many ex-Hindu creators talking about this, or do you feel like you're a massive minority when it comes to this?
There are a significant number of atheist content creators, but a lot of them would not describe themselves as ex-Hindu atheist creators.
Okay.
They still have certain amount of loyalty towards their former religion, or even people who
Huh.
call themselves Hindu and are still creating atheism related content.
Huh.
There is a category of creators in India called rationalists
Hmm.
who are anti superstition. Many of them are theists. They believe in God, they go to temples, but they fight. They do, like, as I said, their goal is to devalue religion, and their goal is to prevent superstition from spreading in society. Like, I've spoken to quite a few on my live stream also. Like, we will be talking and it'll come as a surprise to me in the middle when they tell that they do believe in God.
Right. And
Yeah.
so something big over here that I found
Hmm.
is religious folks have massive opinions on evolution, um, massive opinions on spirits and ghosts,
Hmm.
and not quite so many, but a lot do think that the age of the Earth is, 6,000 years old, and some even go that the Earth's flat. Where are Hindus on that?
Well, if you had asked me this question 15 to 20 years ago, I would have said,
Mhm.
yeah, evolution is not a problem here. But a lot
Okay.
of American superstitions are seeping into the Indian ecosystem thanks to YouTube,
Right.
in no small part. And we are having our evolution skepticism. Evolution skepticism is more common among Indian Muslims than Hindus, uh, at least as far as I have seen. But yeah, it is beginning to happen here also. So thanks,
Right.
America.
There's a lot to answer for. Thanks, America. And what about like flat Earth and all that? Is that something that happens
I
over there?
don't think we have flat earthers in
Okay,
large numbers just yet,
okay,
but give
but
it
give it
time. Give
time.
it time. Yeah,
Yeah,
give it about 6,000 years.
we'll wait with bated breath, maybe. Well, I mean, it's fascinating. I love learning about all this stuff. So thanks for letting us know. I think we should probably get to some calls though, because that's
Great.
essentially why we're here. But
Yes.
before we get to a call, we need to shout out our patron of the week. Every single week, we get to shout out a patron that donates through tiny.cc/patrontw. They support the show. And this week's patron of the week is Ken Funk. Thank you, Ken, and thank you to everyone else who contributes to the show. We do very much appreciate you. Okay, Vimoh, I think it's time to get to a call. So we've got here, we have Coyote Boy. His pronouns are he, him, from Texas. And now this is already throwing me, Coyote Boy. The Drake equation makes skeptics and non-believers tend to get angry too. They want there to be alien life out there. So welcome, Coyote Boy. You're on with Vimoh and Jon the Skeptick. What have you got for us?
Well, hi. I'm so happy to talk to Jon the Skeptick. I love his channel. And Vimoh?
Vimoh.
Oh, okay. I don't know you, but I'm happy to get to meet you. Okay, so here's my
Same here, man.
Make it real brief. I'm a humanist, skeptic, atheist, etc. And when I suggest that the Drake equation is a little harder to unpack than most people think, I've had people get really mad at me for suggesting that life may be rare or we might be it. And they approach it like when you tell people there's no afterlife. They go after it with a religious frenzy.
Right. For those of us, because I'm a big dum-dum, those of us who don't know what the Drake equation is, it might be a good idea to, let's just give it like the basics. What is the Drake equation?
It's really simple. In 1960, 1961, a physicist named Drake presented a very valuable equation. There are 7 factors that determine the probability of life. Number of stars with planets, number of planets that can support life, number of planets that in which life arose. Number 5 is number of planets in which life became intelligent. Number 6 is where they developed technology, and number 7 is when they didn't destroy themselves in a few millennia.
Right.
We're very, very solid. Given the last, it's been 60 years. We're very solid on the first 3. We have a pretty good idea of how many stars and how they form, and we have a pretty good idea of how many planets there are.
Right.
We have a pretty good idea of how many planets are in the Goldilocks zone. But, and here's the big but, the step between 4 and 5, where life arises and where life becomes intelligent, has a lot of trapdoors, because it took 1 billion fucking years for cells to even develop a nucleus. It took another untold number of time for cells to become multicellular. Then it took a lot longer for life to become intelligent. So that's an unlikely series of steps. Now, let me give you another. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, but let me give you.
No, I'm enjoying it.
When the giant stars in the early universe exploded and the first galaxies and planets formed, there had to have been one first. If life is common, there had to have been one first intelligent species. And they would have looked out among those stars and said, oh, my God, all these stars, there has to be other people like us. They would have been totally wrong.
Right. Well, but how would you know that?
Yeah, I think one assumption that is being made here is that they were like us. And that A, they had eyes, they looked at the stars. B, they were curious. C, they could experience amazement. And aren't those 3 very human qualities? Aren't we like literally doing what the religious do when they look at the universe and come to the conclusion that there must be a God out there who is like me?
Thank you for bringing that up, because what if they were intelligent, but they just didn't give a care? They didn't care if there were other life forms out there. Why would they?
Which is also a very human thing as well. Not caring about stuff. We're attributing a lot of what we are onto this. But I'd be interested to know, Coyote Boy, where you stand on it. Are you saying that you do believe that there's life out there? Because as Truth Wanted, we want to discover the truth, and we want to hear what people's opinions are on these things. So do you believe that there's the possibility of life out there, or are you saying there's no possibility?
I absolutely believe there is a possibility of intelligent and technologically advanced life. There's absolutely the possibility, but I'm saying it's not a certainty.
Right.
Life could have there could have been interplanetary wars 1 billion years ago that wiped out all intelligent life. We don't simply don't. You know, at this point, is there now? Let me get this out there. I don't think we're being buzzed by alien spacecraft. That's
right.
You know, silly. Because if they're trying to reveal themselves to us, they're terrible at it, and if they're trying to stay hidden, they're even worse at it. So yes, we could be the first intelligent life, or we could be the last.
Right. And there's only a certain amount of the universe that we can see as well, and is there something further out there that we haven't observed yet, or is largely unobservable, where there are even older star systems? Our observable universe is, what is it, 13.8 billion years old, but then who's to say there isn't something even further out that doesn't have advanced life forms? I'm a big fan of there potentially being other life forms. Do I think that they're as advanced as we are? Maybe. Could they be more advanced? Our little speck in the universe is relatively young, really. Wasn't our sun formed at was it 5 billion or something years ago, and it took another
5 billion. Yes.
There you go. And then a couple more 100,000 years, and finally, our Earth started doing stuff. So the potential of life being out there, I would love it to be true, but until it's demonstrated, I'm just going to carry on going, I don't know. I'd love, if they do want to come down and come and take me and experiment on me, I'm all for it, but do it before my baby comes, because I want to be here for the birth of my child.
You have a tight schedule.
Yeah, right. You've got 10 weeks.
Please let me stop you a moment. This is kind of my point.
Right.
I grew up, like I said, on Star Trek and Outer Limits and all the great sci-fis, and I read enough science fiction as a teenager to choke a hippo. I want there to be other life out there. I think that's a corruption of one's ability to make an accurate assessment. It's like wanting people to believe in heaven.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I want it to be true doesn't make it true.
Exactly. Yeah. And then until it's demonstrated that there is something out there, let's just continue hoping, in inverted commas, that there is something there.
But if I can just raise one point,
I would like to. I would like to meet a Vulcan. I wouldn't want to meet a Gorn.
Wow, I don't know how close they are to the alien life, but
I'm not sure I would want to meet a Vulcan either. But the point I was making is that when we talk about advanced civilizations, aren't we still kind of looking through the filter that we have? We are basically looking for something like us, and we are defining ourselves as advanced, and we are assuming that the thing that we find out there will be like us when we say that advanced civilization. So I think we have good reason to think that life out there is possible, and the probability part is something people can disagree on, because I think the way we reach conclusions is through frames of reference, right? If I put out a bowl of milk outside and a cat drank it, and I put out a bowl of milk today and I don't know who drank it, I can come to the conclusion that maybe the cat drank it. So the way we come to the conclusion about whether there is life on other planets is by referring to our frame of reference, which is that, we know that there is life on one planet, which is this planet, and there are a lot of planets out there. So it is not inconceivable that there may be life out there. What shape that life will take, whether it will be quote unquote advanced or inadvanced or single cellular, or life forms that live inside oceans of lava or something, we can't say. So my problem is not with the belief that there may be life out there. My problem is with the assumption that we will understand it or be able to relate to it.
Right.
Which is a problem with Star Trek also, right? Because they were all humanoids. They had arms and heads and eyes and stuff.
Well, let me put this to you. There are actually 2 inhabited planets in our solar system. One is largely human, and the other one, Mars, is largely robot. because there are plenty of robots up there. But do you think, though, if there was, and this might be a good question, if there was advanced life out there that could and had the technology to travel all of this way to come and visit us, do you think we're ready for that? Because given how we can't agree amongst each other about how to do things on this planet, having some outsiders come in and be like, hey, we want to be your friends, do you want to do that? I don't know if the human race is ready for that. What do you think?
I'm going to refer you to the 1951 movie where Klaatu came down with a big robot that was ready to destroy the world. I think we would be
The day the Earth.
I think we would be shut out of the
Right.
Galactic Empire. Yeah, we're not anywhere near ready for joining the. Star Trek is still 1,000 years away. We're not gonna.
Right.
We're fuck ups. We're fuck ups. Although I do want
Who
to
knows?
say
Maybe
this. I think
maybe the aliens will like it.
life is giving. I'm sorry. Pardon me. Given how apparently early life arose on this planet, I think we're going to find a shitload of planets with single-celled organisms.
Right. That would be cool, though, right?
A billion years.
Yeah.
Sorry?
That would be so. I mean, that would be cool if we got that. Yeah, we can hear you. Sorry, I just got very excited. It would be cool.
It would be cool, but it took a billion years for a cell to figure out how to make a nucleus.
Right.
Then it took another billion years to figure out how to be multicellular. And let's not even get into intelligence and consciousness because we don't even know what that is yet.
Right. We're still working that one out.
We can't even define consciousness yet. So I'm just saying, my gripe is people say, "Oh, there must be other intelligent life." No, there doesn't have to be.
No, there might be, but we don't know.
Others.
Right, man. I could talk about this all day, but I'm worried about it turning into a Star Trek, Star Wars fan thing, and people who don't watch it what's going on here? But I love the alien chat. Thanks, Coyote Boy.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and let me get this off my chest because it's really pissed me off to sleep.
Well, I might join you.
Coming down on me. Thanks. Great show. Continue.
Thanks, Coyote Boy. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Coyote Boy.
Thank you. I mean, I would absolutely love it if alien life was a real thing. And I've watched there's some very cool documentaries on certain formats where they talk about convergent evolution and oh, look at the atmosphere of this planet. This is what would happen if, this kind of life form developed and what these creatures would look like. It's fascinating. My wife, not so much. She's not as big.
Question for you, John, if I can just ask. Maybe there is single cell life there on other planets that just doesn't grow into multicellular life.
Right. Yeah,
right?
and
so they never end up having podcasts, which is a shame.
Yeah,
but they we have species on Earth which never bothered with being multicellular. Bacteria has existed since before dinosaurs,
right?
And still does. So if an alien species came and looked at Earth and tried to come to a conclusion about what the dominant species of this planet is, they might come to the conclusion that it's bacteria, that the Earth was made for bacteria, and all these other aberrations which are podcasting are just something.
Or there's isn't there a fungus that's hundreds of thousands of miles across? Maybe not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of miles. There's a fungus somewhere in North America, and it's enormous, and it's all linked together. Maybe they think that that's the dominant life form because of just how big it is, and it's not. It's just chilling out, living its best life, growing, and all this. Or dolphins. Dolphins are pretty cool. I think maybe they come down and go, that must be the dominant species. Look at them swimming around and having fun and putting things in each other's blowholes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yep. Our imagination with respect to alien life forms is very human centric, is what I'm trying to point out.
Right. And I spent a lot of time as a kid drawing my own aliens and watching all the alien programs, and it would be cool. It would be very cool. But we'll hold a bit of hope for one day maybe being contacted, but probably not in our lifetime, which is a big shame. So just before we go on to another call, just so you're aware, we're now accepting super chats and we will read them live on air. So feel free to make us read the things you've written I mean, I was going to say keep it clean, but this is Truth Wanted, so you can say what you want, assuming they're YouTube appropriate. There you go. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by donating to our Patreon at tiny.cc/PatreonTW. There's a couple of different tiers on there, so you can get your name shouted out during the show if you donate. You can also support the show by becoming a member. You get emojis in the chat, your name gets highlighted in the chat, and you'll be immune to the slow mode, all for as little as 99 cents per month. And let me tell you, the slow mode annoys me, so it's very worth it, because I've been sitting there and going, oh, I can't send this because I've got to wait for 2 minutes. Are you ready for some more calls, Vimoh?
Absolutely.
What do you reckon? Okay, so here we have Chase, him in Idaho. He's got a thought experiment about aliens oppressing humans. Okay.
Aliens again?
Yeah, I love this, and this is why Truth Wanted is great, because there's everything. You get everything.
Great.
Aliens, ghosts. The lines are still open if you want to call in and talk about any of this. But hey, Chase, how you doing?
Doing well. Thank you so much for taking my call. I'm a big fan of the show.
Good.
Hi, Chase.
We're a big fan of you.
Aw.
What have you got for us?
All right. So hypothetically, imagine that aliens exist and they're smarter and stronger than us, and they come to Earth and they treat humans the way that we treat animals in factory farms and slaughterhouses. So the aliens put us in cages, they kill our friends, and now they're coming at us with the knife, and we're screaming and trying to escape. But 3% of the aliens are vegan, and they're saying to the other aliens, hey guys, why don't we be nice to the humans? Nobody gets to choose how they're born, and there's nothing wrong with being different. What matters is the humans feel pain and pleasure, and they want to live. But the aliens who are killing us are laughing at the vegan aliens, saying, what do you care about these stupid humans for? They look different than us. They're not as smart as us. Right? So the question is, should we be violent toward animals just because they're a different species and less intelligent, or is that discrimination similar to how the aliens were oppressing us?
Wow. This is basically, we should all be vegan, right? This is maybe we should all be vegan.
This is a vegan call, yeah.
Where I stand on this is, and I'm really sorry, but I really like how some animals taste. So my opinion is that I'm a bit speciesist, and that's probably very wrong of me. What about you, Vimoh?
Well, that's understandable. Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. And of course, the response would just be, well, the aliens think that you taste delicious, so is that justification for the violence?
But if if the aliens are intelligent and we're, maybe we're intelligent, I don't know, and we can find a way to reason with them and say, look, maybe don't eat us because this is our thought process. If animals started saying to me, please don't eat me because this, I would probably stop eating the animals, and it's not all the animals. I don't eat all the animals.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I guess I feel like the animals are communicating with us, like dogs and cats and pigs and stuff. They communicate with us. They scream in pain. They run away in fear. They also, nuzzle up to us and be social and kind to us when we're nice to them.
And James, that's the thing. We domesticate some of these animals, so we almost give them human personas, so that makes it more difficult. I could never eat my dog unless I was on a desert island and I was really hungry, because she's quite meaty,
Yeah, I hear you. And I feel the same way as a vegan for the past 13 years. I did eat animals for 26 years, but now, I would also, like you, if I was stranded on a desert island and there was no vegan food around, no plant foods, and the only option was to kill and eat a dog or a pig or you, I might do it, you know what I mean? But I'm not going to hurt somebody. But I'm not going to hurt somebody just because I enjoy the taste of their dead body. You know what I mean?
Right.
Can I
unless I have to.
Chase, can I ask you something? In this hypothetical alien visitation example, if the aliens happen to be plant-based life forms and they feed themselves using photosynthesis, and they come to Earth and they see that people are eating plants, and the same thing works out the way you said, what would you do?
Oh, well, if these alien plants are sentient and conscious, they have personalities and desires and feel pain and stuff, that would change the situation, and similarly, I would think, though, that if those alien plants were sentient and they saw us eating plants that are not sentient here on Earth, because an apple doesn't care how you treat it because it doesn't have a brain or a nervous system. An apple doesn't feel pain, so I don't think the alien plants would care that we're eating plants on Earth because our plants are not sentient. They're not.
So it appears to be like, I completely respect your point of view, but it appears to me to be quite a bit of imagination at work here. Like, you're trying to get us to feel that aliens would be like this, but not like this. And then you're deciding what the parameters of their engagement with us are going to be.
Well, I guess the question is like, what philosophy of the two types of aliens, the majority of the aliens who are killing us in the hypothetical versus the 3% of vegan aliens, whose philosophy between those two, whose philosophy do we hope will win out in the end? Do we hope the vegan aliens will win and justice will prevail and the humans will be preserved? Or do we hope for some weird reason that the cruel aliens will win and they kill us,
Well, justice is a very human concept, no? So, it exists in human society. When a lion eats a deer in the forest, you don't say it is unjust that the deer died, or if the deer escapes, you don't say it is unjust that the lion starved to death. So it's still a conversation like, who will win in a fight, Captain America or Iron Man? We're still talking completely in hypotheticals. I suppose whoever the writer wants to win will win. And
Right.
you're writing the story right now.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is like the lion kills in order to survive and they don't know any better. It's still unfortunate for the deer that the lion kills, it's still violent, but it's not like the lion knows any better. But we, on the other hand, are civilized human beings, and the aliens in the thought experiment are even smarter than us. So it's like we ought to know better than to cause needless violence.
But plenty of civilized human beings have engaged in pretty uncivilized behavior throughout history. And when you say smarter than us, you're assuming that intelligence has something to do with morality. There are really smart people who have done really hideous things.
That's a very good point. Now, I would just say that, just because we've done something for a long time doesn't make it morally justified, but I agree.
I'm not saying it is justified because we have done it for a long time. I'm saying that intelligence does not necessarily translate into moral behavior.
Sure, I
So
agree.
these aliens might correspond to your view of veganism, right? But they may be engaging in other really hideous behavior that you and I will not be able to condone. Yeah.
Yes, that could be true. Yes, I guess I just feel that we shouldn't, like, because nobody gets to choose how they're born and there's nothing wrong with being different, that we should just be nice to everybody. And like, I'm a human rights activist as well, and I just figured, but I suddenly realized, I want to expand my circle of compassion and stand up against all oppression. And I do think that just because that these lions would do something, or that violent humans will do something, and just because some humans misuse their intelligence as a way to oppress innocent, vulnerable, childlike beings, these animals who did nothing wrong and they can't defend themselves, because they're not as smart as us. But I feel like that's the philosophy of might makes right, that, we can do whatever we want to lower beings because we have power over them. But I feel like that's an abuse of power.
I don't think animals are lower beings, so to speak, and I'm sure you also did not mean it that way. But I would like to draw your attention to another thing that happens in my part of the world, which is India, where people who eat meat get discriminated against by vegetarians. There have even been cases of people being killed because they were suspected of possessing meat.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I think that I'm not advocating for violence against anybody, of course.
I'm not saying that you are.
Yeah, I understand. I know you're not saying that about me. And we want to use peaceful means to accomplish our goals, whatever our activist goals are. I think we should talk about these things. And sure, debate and protest is fine, but, keep the violence out of it, ideally, right? But at the same time, though, like, I think if we saw somebody kicking a dog then, you know, if the dog's not attacking anybody or anything, the dog's just minding their own business. If we saw somebody kicking a dog, we would probably intervene in one way or another. We might speak to the person and try to calm them down, or we might call the police to intervene, or if there was no time, we might physically put ourselves in between the attacker and the dog, you know? And so I just feel like that's what vegans are doing, just with other animals and stabbing instead of just kicking, because that's what's happening in the slaughterhouses, you know? Their throats are slit. And I think that slitting an animal's throat is worse than kicking them.
Right.
Agree. We should be more compassionate.
Right. And I completely agree as well. I do think if I saw someone kicking a chicken, I would intervene, because there's a difference between, and this is just my opinion, but there's a difference between ending something's life in a humane way, like quick death ready to be eaten, rather than torturing a creature and then, you know, one day maybe eating its carcass. If it's dealt with in a humane way, me personally, I find it okay to carry on eating that creature because I like the taste of the creature.
Yeah, I kind of understand what you mean. Like, you're trying, you know, of course it would be worse to torture and then kill an animal.
Right.
But I think it's also, I think it's still bad to kill the animal, even if it's quick and painless. Just like if, you know, if somebody killed you in your sleep, you know, you wouldn't feel any pain or any fear. So that's good. But somebody would have taken your life prematurely. And, you know, these animals are killed when they're very young, because that's when it's profitable. So, like, the natural lifespan of a pig is about 12 years old, just like a dog. But pigs are killed when they're only 6 months old. And that's like killing a puppy.
Right. It's an interest, and I like how it started off as like, here's some aliens that might want to eat us, but actually it was a secret veganism. It was a nice way of doing it, and I appreciate that, Chase. I
always appreciate the imagination of vegans.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it was a nice way of approaching it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time. If you have any other questions or anything, that's fine, or you know, I might call you again some other time. But I appreciate the open-mindedness and challenging my perspective, but in a polite way. So thank you for that. And
thank you,
I would just remember, you know, that if we don't want violence done to us from another being that's stronger than us, then I don't want to do that violence to someone who's not as strong and smart as me. I want to use my power to. I want to use my power to protect the vulnerable, you know.
I like that. That's a nice way to be, Chase. And I don't like that I eat so much meat. Like, I know that there is harm caused to animals that taste really bloody good. And so I, over the last, actually in 2018, I stopped eating one meat altogether, because I'm like, I just can't do it to all these animals. So slowly, maybe I am stepping away from eating all these animals. It might just take me a little bit longer. And it's nice to have a different perspective on it. And again, like, put forward in a nice, respectful way, Chase. So we appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember, you know, I used to make fun of vegans, and now look at me. So
right. And actually, I've got a very good friend back in the UK. All he would do is rip on vegans, and now he's vegan himself. So I completely get it.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, thanks, Chase. Thanks for calling in. And thanks for.
Bye, Chase.
Yeah, and just one last thing I'll say. Just one last thing, if I could, I'll just say, you know, there's a lot of delicious food out there that's vegan. You know, we got rice, pasta, fruit, vegetables, seeds, beans, bread, all that like Asian stir fry or Indian curries, you know. And then we got the vegan meats and, you know, like vegan burgers and pizza and ice cream and all that good stuff. So it's not like we're asking you to get rid of all earthly pleasures or not, that you try to help.
Yeah. In fact, Chase, if I can just point out, I started moving towards a more plant-based diet about a year ago. I've stopped eating all meat. I still eat eggs and I drink milk, but I'm having just salad for an entire meal for the last entire year. And I recently had the opportunity to taste meat again, and I didn't like it.
Oh wow!
Like, yeah, my aesthetic of taste has changed to such a great degree. Right. I find salad tasty now, which I found gross a year ago, and I can't handle meat anymore.
And likewise, I gave up beef in 2018. That was my one that and it wasn't just because of it being a cow, and cows are cool, but it was because of the environmental impact of eating beef. And I also had beef not so long ago and went, I don't like steak anymore. What's wrong with me? So
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
that happens.
I think same thing happened to me. My taste buds changed. And, for the first 3 weeks of not eating animals, I had some cravings. I would pull into the drive-through of the McDonald's and see the picture of the big juicy burger, and I'd start salivating and, getting cravings. But I would just order the French fries, and put something in my belly, and then I'd be fine, And after a few weeks, your psychologists say that, it takes 3 weeks to change a habit, about 21
Right.
days, whether it's smoking or new exercise or new diet, and so once you get used to a new thing, and if you just focus on the animals and focus on justice, that's what I did, instead of focusing on my, my preferences and my taste and my pleasure and my habits, I just realign my priorities, and it became really easy. And now I have no cravings at all,
Wow, that's awesome.
Mm.
Well, thanks for that, Chase. It's definitely something to think about going forward. I'm not against veganism, but I at the moment I'm still too into the meat taste of certain meats. But I'm willing to explore it going forward. Especially, I keep saying it because I'm very excited. But I've got a child on the way, and I would like my child to think about others, and not just other humans, but other creatures. So it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, exactly. So the last thing I'll leave you with is there's a movie with Joaquin Phoenix on YouTube called Dominion.
Okay.
And so, just check out Dominion on YouTube with Joaquin Phoenix, and it'll show you undercover investigations of animals.
Sweet.
I think I've heard of this one.
Yeah. Nice.
Dominion.
Okay. Well,
all right.
Thanks, Chase. You have a good one. Thanks for calling in. We appreciate you.
Bye, Chase.
So you would say that vegetarianism and almost veganism is fairly big then in India, or is this just a you thing?
It's not as big as people make it appear. How do I put this? A huge part of how the West sees India comes from the habits of the people who have settled there from India, right? But there are tribal communities in India. Eating meat is a huge part of their culture. And they get discriminated against in India because of that. By more powerful communities who happen to be vegetarian.
Wow.
So that's also something to look at. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
There are people who would not rent a house to someone who eats meat.
Whoa. And when I say awesome, I mean discrimination's never good, but it's incredible that happens.
Welcome to a whole new flavor of discrimination.
Right, great.
It's called the caste system.
Right. We can explore that later.
Yeah.
We have got some calls in the queue, but there are still lines open if you do want to call in with something, whether it's aliens or vegan aliens. Feel free to call in. We have had a super chat from Puck. Puck has said, now I should have taken a sip of water before I do this. Minimal affinity for feminine thanks, Puck. Let me try again. Minimal affinity for feminine amenities. Oh, I can't even say it now because I've got feminine. Try it. Give it a go.
Minimal affinity for feminine amenities for cinnamon anemones.
Anemones. See, because you get the previous. I'm a professional voiceover, Puck. I do that. I talk for a living, and I can do that. So thanks, Puck. He just wanted to support you and make you say something difficult. So thanks, Puck. Also, before we get to more calls, there's a limited edition T-shirt. Feeling cute today might destroy the universe. Might adopt a cat. I don't know. And you can grab that at visit tiny. So you can grab that from is it tiny.cc/merch ACA. There we go. I know what the link is. Clearly not. And also attention everybody. Get ready for an extraordinary experience at the annual Bat Cruise on Saturday, August 26th. 2023. You can join the Atheist Community of Austin for a fun summer evening on the water, conversing with like-minded free thinkers. You could meet Forrest Valkai, J. Mike, and other hosts of the Atheist Experience, Talk Heathen, and the non-profits. And also, I think Truth Wanted, because Dan's going, right? They'll be on board to mingle and chat throughout the 2-hour cruise around Lady Bird Lake. The cruise will pause at the Congress Avenue Bridge at sundown for the emergence of the world's largest urban bat colony. So get your tickets now at tiny.cc/batcruise. And if you want to hear
why it does this, I don't know what's going on.
I think Kelly's in the chat there as well. So you're hearing extra voices. I do apologize. If you want to hear our content in audio only form, please visit tiny.cc/AEN podcasts for all the latest ACA shows.
Here, listen.
Let's see who else have we got here. We've got Brant.
Yeah, and
I'm sorry.
Restart everything. It's fine.
I think we've got a little crossover. If you can hear some audio, I do apologize. We've got Brant. He, him in Wisconsin believes if aliens are smart enough to travel the stars, they're likely to have similar morals as humans. So that's interesting. Let's explore that. Hi, Brant. Am I saying your name right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Brant.
Hi,
Nice
Brant.
to meet you. What have you got for us?
Well, personally, I believe if anything is intelligent enough to get across the cosmos, one, they probably evolved a similar pathway as ourselves. I believe it's really unlikely that they would be able to travel the cosmos to begin with. But if they could, hypothetically, they're going to be taking into account intelligence. They're going to be taking into account ability to like feel pain, suffering, other things that like evolution will probably like select for. They're not going to care about like phenotypical traits. Just like that seems silly to me. That like something that's like intelligent enough to have like cosmic travel would just care about like the aesthetic of something like, oh, it looks like us, you know, like.
Okay.
Like.
Yeah, but why do you think that, Brent?
Why do I think that? I mean, because I don't really have much of a connection to people or animals or much of anything. I pretty much just value life. I don't even value life, I should say. I just value the experience of living things, like their ability to feel pain and their ability to feel pleasure if pleasure exists. I'm what's called a negative utilitarian, so I'm not necessarily a vegan. I'm a Scrappitarian. So basically, I will fish.
What is that?
Yeah, what did you say? A Scrappitarian?
Yeah, like I will take on like it's basically like I'll eat scraps. Like so like there's like pizza. It's gonna be like I work for like Nestle, so like essentially like there's a bunch of pizza that'll get like damaged and it's gonna be like thrown out. Essentially, you're putting like in the coolers there, and it's like it's no longer in the supply and demand chain. So it's not as if I'm contributing to bringing animals into existence by eating it anymore. So
it's essentially like eating roadkill.
Yes, essentially, exactly.
Right.
You don't kill, but you just eat what is already dead.
No, not necessarily. I will kill wild animals as well, because the way I look at it is like
So you're just against factory farming.
I'm against factory farming and farming in general. Anything that brings things into existence. So I'm against like reproducing in general. But when it comes down to, I'm not against hunting or fishing because those animals will die in brutal ways no matter what. Probably predation or parasites if it's unlucky, So the way I look at it is, I mean, nature's cruel, it's brutal. A human hunting or fishing is far more a merciful death. So I think it's consistent with most people's ethics that they already hold. And it's because most people don't want to cause suffering to things. And most people do like to do recreational like sports like fishing and hunting. Right. And I think it's the perfect thing because it reduces suffering on that whole. So.
And there's like, population control as well is definitely a thing. Like, I don't know where it is, how it is where you are, Brant, but around where I am in Kentucky, deer are like so plentiful that, they destroy crops and they cause masses of car accidents because they run out in the roads, which essentially isn't their fault because, we put the roads through where they live, but they cause a crap ton of accidents. So like controlling the population is definitely a thing. So maybe like eating those animals would be okay. Right.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like eating those animals would be okay. I guess what's also called pro-mortalist. Or Epicurean. I don't believe that death is bad for the ones who die. And in fact, given that the state of life is generally a negative, as like Eastern religions suggest, that like in general life like ending is a good thing. For the one who dies, that is not like not in that whole like Stephen Hawking would like died like 20 years like before, like 20 years ago, we would like have lost so much like scientific research and stuff. So it's like for him, like it might have been better if he died like 20 years ago because he wouldn't have been suffering for like those 20 years of ALS. But but it's like that whole is good for him to be alive. But from like a soul perspective of just like an animal, though, they're not really going to be providing utility for people outside of like their consumption value or like production value. So pretty much,
Brent,
I mean, if you
can I ask you something?
Yeah, go. Yeah.
How are you defining utility?
My version of utility is
utility
just,
for humans.
It's just utility on the whole of experience. I believe that experience generates value. So like empirical experience of like pleasure or pain. So I'm basically just utility of pain is what I'm measuring. I don't really believe pleasure really exists, or if it does, it doesn't really have much weight to ethics. So I don't really take into account pleasure. So I'm just measuring pain basically. But that's basically what my version of utility is, just taking into account suffering.
Well, and as I love talking about eating things, but you called in to say about aliens being smart enough to travel the stars, and I'd like to get back to that and see why you think aliens are likely to have more, similar values and similar morals as humans.
Well, we know that evolution is what causes life to like get to where it is in the state. I mean, I assume at least you all are also atheists who believe in evolution, or Christians who believe in evolution. So likely they're going to take the same path from like unicellular like organisms and multicellular, and then eventually get on to whatever form of life has. They're still going to have aversive responses to things, so they're going to like be trying to avoid getting their cells destroyed or whatever. So they're going to have like similar stimuluses, like pain is going to be a thing for them, aversive responses, and potentially like pleasurable responses, like things that encourage them to do actions, release serotonin and dopamine or whatever various chemicals that would do like similar results for them. So, I mean, I think that they would have basically the same exact components as we would, carbon-based or something or another, and they would basically have similar reversive responses and understand like other things have those responses as well. And if they're intelligent enough to travel the cosmos, I mean, I assume like via like some sort of technological means, that they probably would have an understanding of like psychology and understand like, oh yeah, what is bad?
Still a bit of a stretch, no?
I think so. I think like again, that's putting a very human attributes onto it, because what if, and you were speaking about convergent evolution, what if the species kind of took the route of a spider, that mates with a male and then eats it, and these alien creatures will mate with whatever it takes to create another version of themselves, and then eats the thing that they mated with, if that's what they did. Or there's we have creatures on this planet that live solitary lives. Syrian hamsters are one, and if they meet each other, they fight to the death. Why wouldn't these aliens have those attributes?
Well, here's the thing. I think it's completely possible that they would have those attributes, just as humans have the inclinations to like do sexual violence toward each other sometimes, or just like violence in general. Like warfare has existed since the beginning of human history and will probably exist till we die from some plague or solar flare or warfare gone nuclear, So I think violent traits exist in all things, but it's a very much the nature of evolution to be. The nature of evolution is what I call, Gary and a bunch of other ethicists call crap consumption, reproduction, addiction to various things, and parasitism, like parasiting off of other earthlings and other things of your own species and so on. So I think like it's in the very nature of like evolution that these things are going to be like very violent by their like natural instincts in order to survive as long as they had. But I think with intelligence, if they are intelligent, they can overcome their biological urges and understand that like, just because I have the desire to rip apart my mates to get to where I am doesn't mean I should do that.
Right. And
Brand,
do you have any morals in particular that you think, you know, that they potentially could have?
I think anything that's intelligent enough will eventually understand that, at least for themselves, on a like solipsistic level, that like pain is bad and pleasure, if it exists, is good. And so like just utility basically. And I think, yeah, like if you begin to understand, like if you're intelligent enough to understand, like, oh, other things are just as valuable as myself. Their $5 is equal to my $5, and their experience of pain and pleasure is equal to my experience of pain and pleasure. We just have different quantities and like different like perspectives of where like I am in the universe and stuff. So it's like, but really the value is equal. So I think something intelligent will eventually get to the realization that like, especially if they're intelligent enough to travel the cosmos, to be like, yeah, like to survive is not a necessary thing. Plenty of things have gone extinct and they're not complaining about it. So, and a bunch of things of that nature. And they'll eventually realize that, like, honestly, I don't think anything that, I don't really believe that intelligent life will travel the cosmos because of various reasons that I'm kind of hinting at, which is like that, like, existence is pain. I think if anything, we would get something more of like some sort of AI that would travel the cosmos to like more or less snuff out any life. So if anything, I'd say if we do encounter aliens that are intelligent enough to communicate with us, we're probably fucked. But that's just
like
they might not be.
They're probably ethelists, so they're probably.
There could be a life form out there that has another life form preying on it, and they've observed these humans that are pretty good at fighting each other, and go, we could use those skills to help us. Maybe we should hire these humans to come and help protect our planet. That could also be a possibility.
Jem'Hadar. If you guys remember Deep Space Nine.
What have you got, Vimoh?
Apologies, what was that?
The Star Trek series Deep Space Nine had this alien species called the Founders, who did not fight, but they waged war. And
oh no! And then we lose Vimoh just as he's going into the story. I think what he was getting at was there was a species on this program, and I don't know why this has happened. This has turned into Star Trek fandom Truth Wanted, which I can only apologize for. But there was a species on this program, and I didn't watch Deep Space Nine. I didn't really watch much Star Trek. I do apologize. So I'm not very good at this conversation. But that there was a species that started wars and then hired another species to help them fight the war, and they essentially just stepped back. Maybe, I don't know. Did you ever watch Star Trek, Brandt?
I've never watched Star Trek.
Okay.
I mean, I've watched like a few episodes.
Okay.
But
so this isn't where you got this idea from. Then it's not like something watching like a fantasy, sci-fi thing. This is just something that's playing on your mind.
Yeah, this is the philosophy is kind of like based off of like antinatalism and ethilism, and I guess like the primary thing I get is negative utilitarianism, which is basically just utilitarianism, but you just kind of cut out the aspect of taking pleasure into account, and you're just kind of measuring pain and really just valuing the pain of the universe. Not as a positive thing that I was like, oh, we need more pain, as in like like wanting less pain. Like pain is a bad thing, and we want to like limit this value, like basically like ego death the universe.
Where do you stand on there being alien life? Are you like indifferent, or do you think there better be, or do you want there to be? What's your position on it?
I really hope that there's no other life in the universe. And I think it's also, I would also think that it's very unlikely,
Mhm.
at least not like intelligent life, just because
Right.
of the fact that like Earth has been in the habitable zone of the sun for like billions of years, and life has only cropped up from and evolved from those unicellular organisms once from like some deep hydrothermic trench or whatever, you know.
Right.
And that's only happened once in the history of Earth, and we live in a habitable zone. So it's
Right.
just kind of like the chance that that's going to occur somewhere else in the universe is very, very, very low. But then you have to add on to the fact that like evolution doesn't necessarily select for intelligence; it just selects for whatever propagates the DNA molecule.
Right.
So it's going to more or less likely just select for like pinchers, claws, slime that moves around stuff. It's not going to care about intelligence. So when it comes down,
but I might rebuttal that with evolution fills niches and finds if there's a gap, something will fill it usually. So maybe there is a gap for traveling through space to come and wipe out other civilizations, and maybe that could happen.
It could happen.
Maybe it's just not gotten to us so far.
Yeah, right. The universe is pretty big, and how long does it even take to get to the edge of our solar system? It takes what, a month to get from here to Mars? Is that right? Is that what they say? Something like that. So to the edge of the solar system is going to take a blooming long time. So, well, it's certainly interesting. I don't know where I stand on whether or not, if they're intelligent enough to get to us, do I think that they would share similar morals to us? Who knows? I don't. If an alien civilization wanted to come and see us, I think they're probably far more advanced than we are, and could probably teach us a thing or two.
I think we already know, like, and perhaps it's a little bit narcissistic of me, but I think we already know, like, what is the, like, fundamental truths of the universe. Like, once we understand that, like, evolution is, like, just chaotic random forces that experience is like a weird hallucination of the universe experiencing itself, kind of, and that fundamentally the only thing of value is like the experience of these things with minds and nervous systems, and their experience breaks down pretty much to positive experiences and negative experiences. And I think in general they're usually negative based, because it just makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint to be like aversive responses to keep you surviving. And so most of our responses are aversive, and even if it weren't aversive, primarily speaking, you just have to kind of look at like the nature of life in general. Like as Arthur Schopenhauer kind of suggested, like the gazelle in the lion example he gives is perfect. Like the lion tears apart a gazelle, and as it's being ripped apart, the gazelle's in massive amounts of suffering, and the lion is having its taste pleasure satisfied and its like hunger satisfied. But when it comes down to it, like there's far more pain than there is pleasure in those experiences, even if you take into those counts. And that's like an everyday thing that you need to do to live, is to eat.
Right.
So, like my cat just killed a rabbit and like half an hour ago. So it's like,
if they did get here, and I'm saying it like they exist, I don't know. But if aliens did get here, Brant, would you eat them?
Would I eat them? Only from. Yeah,
you're taking it out on Brand.
Yeah, I would actually. I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm a primordialist, and so I'm completely for getting nutrition from things, so long as you're not bringing them into existence.
Right.
The catalyst of all pain is like bringing something into existence to suffer, but taking something out of existence is just a transition to nothingness. So if you're like killing the aliens and eating them, or if they just happen to die themselves and you're like eating them like some Soylent Green thing, like turning them into wafers or whatever, I think we could do the same thing with people as far as I'm concerned. I think we're completely fine. So
okay. Have you got anything to add, Vimoh?
Not really. I was talking about before I got disconnected. I was talking about. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, cool. Because I appear to be hearing my own voice also. There is an alien species called the Founders in Star Trek who don't fight their own wars, but they appropriated an entire other species, genetically altered it in order to turn that entire species into their own army. And there is a religious aspect to it also, because the species that was altered seems to think of the Founders as gods.
Oh, wow.
So they think their only purpose is to fight and die for the founders. That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
So I think we should not be too eager to think that whatever form life exists in out there will be anything like us. It would probably be very different.
I mean, if there was something, I think we'd want them to be like us, just because it'd be way easier to reason with them. If they were these weird spider aliens that eat their mates after they've started reproducing them, we're screwed.
That reminds me of another thing.
I mean, like,
I was going to refer Brand a book called Children of Time. It's a science fiction novel by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And what happens in it is that humans decide to colonize other planets. And the way they do it is not by going to them. They discover the planets first. They realize that these planets are going to be able to support human life. So they spend spaceships ahead of them. And these spaceships contain enzymes that are going to accelerate the rate of evolution in the native species of that planet. So they thought, we're going to send these spaceships. These spaceships will get there. They will turn these species who are already there into humans by accelerating their rate of evolution. And when we get there, they will treat us like gods. And what happens instead is that instead of those enzymes affecting the apes on that planet, it affects the spiders on that planet. So when the humans eventually get there, there are civilized spiders fighting religious wars with civilized ants and all that. And the fact that Brandt mentioned about any intelligent species will have thoughts similar to us and will come to these conclusions, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, because the biological pressures on spiders and ants still kept them spiders and ants. Their societal structures did not change much in that story. Of course, it's a story and you can take it with a pinch of salt, but I think it's a great thought experiment to wonder if a lot of things that we think are not a result of our biological makeup are indeed a result of our biological makeup. That's what I wanted to point out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think 100%. Like, our influences are very much based on our biology, but I do think that like we can separate like ethics from biology. I don't think it's like 100% like united. So it's like, I mean, like, obviously like pain and pleasure are like biological phenomenons, but at the same time, I think it's like different than just like any type of desire satisfaction. Like evolution would like select for like ducks to like rape each other, basically, to pass on their genes. But I think we can all agree that like it's a bad thing that that's like a thing that was selected for in nature, even though it does what evolution intends it to do. But we can also acknowledge that like like the orgasms feels good and that's a good thing, and like when the duck's in a visceral situation where it's being like torn apart, that like that for experience for the duck or person is horrible. Like it's like there's something about that like cries out like value. Like there's something about that, not just like atoms bonking into each other in some weird wonky way. It's like there's something about that like in the universe that like screams like, no, there's something different from like a rock falling and like a duck or a person being torn apart or violated in some way.
My question would still be, what does the duck think about it? Because I don't have access to that information, and I seem to be evaluating ducks through a human lens again. Because I mentioned earlier, there is a instance of a lion killing a deer. If I look at it, I feel bad for the deer. But and you're right, in a very objective sense, there is suffering there. But we don't define such events through the lens of justice, which is something, we have definitions of fair and unfair and things like that. So I don't think, like Richard Dawkins has said, is on record having said that he does not think that human society should be run on Darwinian principles, and he's right. It shouldn't be. The rule of nature is not something that we should follow when making decisions about how humans should behave with each other. That's the whole point of civilization. But I think we are on a slightly more slippery slope when we try to anthropomorphize nature by looking at it through a human lens. Of course, I could be completely wrong about this.
And it's all about perspective as well, because let's like the whole lion deer example. Nature documentaries are great because if they're starting off the story with, oh, here's the lion is going to hunt for the deer, you're all like, yes, come on, lion, I want to see you succeed. But then if the story is retold from the perspective of the deer, you're like, piss off, lion, I want this deer to live. You know, it's all about perspective too.
Or if the deer escapes and the lion has nothing to feed its children,
right,
then we're like, oh, poor babies.
I think that's like a thing that's programmed into us through evolution, because like we value like survival, entertainment, like in groups and stuff like that. So it's we attach like a label of like the in group, which is like the line, for example. Like if you're cheering on the line, or you're like really empathetic, you know, and you're not all about like the hunt and the pursuit of like, you're maybe gonna like be empathetic towards the gazelle and be like, oh, poor thing, you know. But I think those are like all like things that evolution is like programmed like into us for like, you know, what we can know, like what our niche essentially is like intelligence. And if we pass on that niche to something else, which would be like the reason that they could actually travel the cosmos, is like purposefully, then I assume that they would also be able to like, you know, kind of empathize with other things and be like, you know, like, hey, I understand that it's like both bad and good. Like not just like you don't have to be just like the person who's like, the gazelle, and you don't have to be the person who's like, yeah, get the gazelle, hunt.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. You can be a little mix of both and be like, you can be like, it's really unfortunate that the gazelle is being torn apart. That's horrible, but it's also necessary for the lion to live. But it's not even necessary really for things to live. It's just programmed into it for billions of years of evolution for it to feel like it needs to live and eat.
Right.
So it's just like all these, you can feel like this is like a tragic situation for both. And I think that's like what intelligence is kind of like both blessed and cursed us with, is that like ability. So.
Right. Well, I like how today's show's been very much about aliens, but also with like a vegan subtext, which I don't know how Dan would feel about that if he saw that.
Is what is Dan's position on this?
I wouldn't like to speak for him. I think it's up to Dan to say whether or not he's for or against veganism.
Okay.
But we appreciate you calling in. Thanks for that, Brant.
Thanks, Brant.
Thank you.
Yeah, we enjoyed that. That was good. I don't know if aliens would share. I'm still up in the air as to whether or not aliens would share our position on stuff. We have had a few extra super chats. We've had 2 from Illuminati, 40 rupees, saying that Bud Light controversy shows where America stands. I feel like that is true. And 111, this is a very specific number. NASA recently summoned religious leaders to discuss on how the possibility of finding aliens would impact their religious followers. They can end religion. I've seen a lot of stuff about that. I saw one video somewhere where a guy was being interviewed saying, what would happen if aliens did turn up and how would that affect your religion? And he basically just said, well, we couldn't say that the God created everything from this point because, you know, aliens are so far away. How would he have done that? Where do Hindus stand on you're going to be the spokesperson for Hinduism today, Vimoh. Where do Hindus stand on aliens?
I think Hindus are like I tried to point it out on my show also. Hindus appear to be in competition with the MCU rather than with Christianity and Islam. So you'll find a lot of popular Hinduism related content creators saying things like aliens were mentioned in the Vedas or the multiverse was mentioned in the Vedas. It's, I think, largely an attempt to stay relevant in this age of internet content about such things. But as far as NASA is concerned, I think it's a wise decision to speak to religious people to ask how it will affect religions, because it can either destroy religions or it can take religious nuttery to another level altogether.
Yeah, I feel like they'd probably use it somehow and go, well, it was written in this religious text here that one day the aliens would come and that would prove that the God is real. And if you look on this little specific verse and then combine it with another verse 47 pages away, you can see that aliens prove the existence of a God. So I don't know. We've also had another super chat from Amit Matthew, $5. My two worlds have intersected with Vimoh being on an ACA show.
Hi, Amit.
That's a friend of yours. That's
No, it's
very
he's a regular viewer of my live stream.
Oh, I call them friends. That's a friend.
Okay.
They're friends of mine.
I'll get there someday.
If you happen to be in the Austin area on July 30th, 2023, we will be broadcasting live from the Free Thought Library. You can join us for Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience. Talk Heathen will be hosted by Jamie Boone and Jamie the Blind Limey. And the Atheist Experience will be hosted by Christy Powell and Objectively Dan. Doors open at noon, and we hope to see you there. It's getting towards the end of the show, so I'm going to just finish off with a few extra announcements. You can email truthwanted at truth@atheist-community.org. You can reach out to the ACA at tv@atheist-community.org and see what's been going on at our website at atheist-community.org. There's a Facebook group, and it's run by the fans for the fans. To get to there, you go to tiny.cc/FBTWG to interact with other fans. And have you said to yourself, I really love the content that the ACA creates, but I wish there was a way I could get it all the time? Well, we have got you covered. We now have two 24/7 live streams. AXP TV delivers a constant stream of shows, clips, and specials from the over 26 seasons of the Atheist Experience. And now Heathen TV provides you with clips from Talk Heathen. You can watch or simply listen to your favorite hosts and discover some hosts you've never even heard of. For those, you visit tiny.cc/AXPTV and tiny.cc/HeathenTV to join in the fun, which would be great. Thanks, Vimoh, for hanging out with me today. Like I said, before the show, I said it can go any way. We can have ghosts, we can have religion. Today, vegan aliens, which, I'm good with that.
Aliens.
Aliens are great.
Thank you for so much Star Trek.
I feel like we might have to rename this to the Star Trek Wanted. Where can our audience learn more about you?
You can visit my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@Vimoh. You can visit my live stream, which is also on YouTube at Vimoh Live, VIMOHLIVE. And you can visit my page at www.vimoh.in.
Nice. And I binge watched some of your videos before coming on, because I saw that I was on with you and I was like, I need to go and see who this guy is. I love your content, so I'm going to be
thanks, man. Thank you so much.
And if you want to stick around after the show, we're going to be doing a hangout on the Atheist Community of Discord after show, so you can join us there at tiny.cc/ACD-discord. Both Vimoh and I will be there. And last but not least, I'd really like to thank the crew. Can we pull up the crew cam? Because I want to see your beautiful faces. Thank you, crew, for making this happen every single week. We love your faces very much. We just need to remember about the "we want the truth" thing. So the question for this week, the prompt this week is it a bad idea to blank at a psychic reading? So comment on the video, and your comment may well be read on next week's episode. Tune in at the beginning of the episode next week to hear the top 3 answers. Thanks again, Vimoh. Thanks again, crew. Thank you so much for watching. We all appreciate you. That's it for tonight. I'm Jon the Skeptick. And as always, remember to keep wanting the truth.
Watch the non-profits and join the hosts in the live chat. Visit tiny.cc/ytnp.